When someone hurls an insult at you, your immediate urge is to defend yourself, to clarify, to prove that you're right and they're wrong. But Machiavelli would warn you that this is exactly what they want. The moment you respond, you've already lost. By reacting, you hand them the victory they were chasing. You step into their frame, acknowledging the power of their words over you. And the one rule to remember if you wish to maintain authority is this: never let anyone see that their words can affect you. Insulting you isn't about truth. It's about control. They aim to find a weakness in you, and if one doesn't exist, they'll try to manufacture it through provocation. The insult itself is not the weapon. It's your reaction that becomes the blade. Every emotional response you give sharpens it further. By replying, you create a story where you are no longer in command. You allow them to set the agenda, decide what matters, and dictate your next move. Machiavelli recognized this psychological struggle long before social media or corporate politics existed. He knew that silence, deliberate, strategic silence, is not weakness. It is one of the most unsettling forms of power. Because when an adversary throws an insult, they expect a battle. When you refuse to draw your sword, they are left striking at nothing. They cannot harm what refuses to fight back. The insult then hangs in the air like smoke, choking only the one who released it. Today's world misinterprets power. It celebrates reactions, applauds comebacks, viral retorts, and clapbacks. Yet all of these reveal a single truth. They show that you care. And once your opponent knows you care, they can manipulate you however they wish. Machiavelli's genius lay in turning others' ego against themselves. He would let them speak, mock, scream, and then do absolutely nothing. Because silence after an insult is far from empty. It acts as a mirror, forcing the insulter to confront the ugliness of their own projection. There is a reason why those with true power rarely engage in public arguments. The higher you climb, the more dangerous any reaction becomes. Words cannot harm you unless you grant them that power. The moment you respond, you validate the attack. You breathe life into what was meaningless and transform it into reality. Machiavelli would say that every insult carries a small seed of power, and whoever nurtures it ultimately loses. The real mastery lies in restraint. Victory is not achieved by crushing your adversary, but by allowing them to fade into irrelevance. And here's the part that most people overlook. Silence is not passive. It's a form of psychological warfare. When someone insults you and you choose not to respond, they begin to overthink. They start questioning themselves. Did they not hear it? Did they not care? Or did they see straight through me? They spiral. Their composure slips as they struggle to regain your attention. Suddenly, the person who sought power over you is now the one performing for it. This is exactly what Machiavelli referred to when he spoke of power reversals, turning aggression back onto the aggressor without lifting a finger. You become the calm surface that reflects and exposes their chaos. But let's be honest, silence is not always easy, especially when the insult cuts deep, comes from someone close, or spreads publicly. The urge to defend yourself is instinctual. Your reputation feels as if it's being set on fire. Yet Machiavelli would remind you, reputation does not die from words, it dies from reaction. The greatest lie your ego tells is that you must fix how others perceive you. You don't. Your only responsibility is to control how you carry yourself. When dignity is displayed, every insult diminishes in significance. Look at those who command genuine respect. They rarely rush to justify themselves. They allow others to wonder. They let rumors starve for attention rather than feeding them with explanations. This isn't arrogance, it's strategy. You are not competing in a contest of who's right. You are competing in a contest of who remains unshaken. In Machiavellian terms, the one who stays unmoved always controls the one who craves validation. The moment you defend yourself, you grant the other person's opinion weight. Silence, on the other hand, sends a far more lethal message. You are not even in their arena. There's another dimension here. By refusing to answer insults, you cultivate what Machiavelli would call invisible authority. This is a power that doesn't rely on rank, words, or status, but on emotional mastery. People pick up on it subconsciously. They fear saying the wrong thing around you because your reactions are unpredictable. They cannot manipulate what they cannot read. This becomes the foundation of lasting influence, to remain composed when others are unraveling. Now imagine being insulted publicly, online, at work, or in front of others. The crowd watches, waiting for your reaction. This is your moment of truth. If you lash out, you may win the argument but lose your presence. If you stay calm, you might sacrifice the immediate clash but win the room. Because when you remain unshaken in the face of provocation, others instinctively perceive you as stronger. Humans respect what cannot be shaken. Machiavelli's principle of appearing superior without effort is fully at play here. Your restraint must appear effortless, even when internally it costs you everything. He would also caution you about a subtle trap: overcompensation. Some people attempt to hide their insecurity with forced composure. They remain silent, yet their quiet trembles with tension. Their faces tighten, their bodies shift, their energy leaks emotion. That is not true composure, that is suppression. Real Machiavellian silence stems from confidence, not fear. It's not the silence of someone too afraid to speak, but of someone who could destroy you with a single sentence and deliberately chooses not to. That is what unsettles people the most, the knowledge that you could strike back, yet you do not. Every insult is an invitation to play a smaller game, to stoop to their level, to trade blows in a pit of mud where no one leaves untainted. Machiavelli's strategy is simple: never accept the invitation. He would rather appear arrogant than reactive, because arrogance fades, but reaction leaves a stain. You must learn to distinguish between battles that build power and those that drain it. Insults fall squarely in the latter category. They are emotional traps set by people who cannot compete with you in any other way. By refusing to engage, you humiliate them through absence. Silence also reshapes how people perceive you over time. Eventually, they realize that provocation fails. They don't get the reaction they crave. And in doing so, you teach the world to respect you, not through confrontation, but through consistent self-command. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said that a wise man must learn to appear both lion and fox. The lion shows strength by remaining unshaken, while the fox conceals its cunning beneath calmness. Together, they form a presence that is untouchable. Perhaps the most profound effect of not replying, however, is internal. When you stop defending yourself, you begin to detach from the need to be understood. You cease living for reactions and start acting from intention. You conserve energy that others waste on trivial conflicts, and that energy becomes your advantage. It sharpens focus, clarifies vision, and strengthens execution. Machiavelli believed that a truly powerful man does not triumph by fighting everyone. He wins by fighting no one. He doesn't need to. Every insult ignored is a battle already won. There is a peculiar moment that occurs when you withhold a response. Initially, you feel the tension building within, the weight of words left unsaid. But then something shifts. You notice that the person who insulted you cannot stop glancing your way, waiting for a reaction that never comes. They begin to feel foolish, as if their words were shouted into a void. And it is in this moment that the power reversal takes hold. Machiavelli understood that silence is not the conclusion of a conflict. It is the starting point of your control over it. Whoever breaks first, to explain, defend, or justify, is the one who exposes emotional dependence. People often underestimate how fragile those who hurl insults truly are. They cloak insecurity in mockery, projecting strength that doesn't exist. Insults are, in fact, confessions. They reveal precisely what the insulter fears within themselves. When they attack your intelligence, it is their own mediocrity speaking. When they question your motives, it is because theirs are impure. Machiavelli would advise studying insults like a general studies enemy movements, not to react but to observe. Each insult divulges a strategy. It exposes who feels threatened by you and where they perceive your weaknesses. And within that insight lies power. Where most people fail is in what comes next. They allow resentment to fester. They mistake silence for suppression. But Machiavelli's silence is deliberate and tactical, not emotional. He would counsel keeping a mental ledger, not a wounded heart. Remember who attempted to humiliate you, but never let it touch your self-image. Because the moment you replay the insult in your mind, you have already responded privately. You have done exactly what they wanted, but quietly, without giving them satisfaction. True mastery is in letting it pass through you completely, like smoke drifting through air, leaving no trace behind. Over time, you begin to notice how many people destroy themselves simply by reacting. Observe how quickly anger exposes foolishness, how swiftly a man offended becomes an open book, revealing all he sought to conceal. Machiavelli would say that to truly insult someone powerful, one must force them to show emotion. If you remain unmoved, you become unassailable. You become a wall, absorbing every stone thrown your way without a crack. There is no greater humiliation for your enemies than realizing they cannot touch your composure. Yet this does not mean silence is always absolute. Sometimes Machiavelli employed subtle, delayed responses, not to defend but to dominate. He might let an insult linger for days, allowing the insulter to believe they had succeeded. Then, at the precise moment, he would reframe the entire narrative with a single calm sentence, restoring his superiority. Something simple, never emotional. For when true power speaks, it does not raise its voice. It lowers the temperature of the room. The goal is never to destroy your opponent. It is to remind them that their relevance depends on your attention. Let's take this a step further. Consider how power truly operates within social hierarchies. The person who talks the most reacts the most, or constantly seeks attention is always at the bottom. The one who withholds, who chooses precisely when and how to engage, sits firmly at the top. This is no accident, it's a psychological design. Silence creates scarcity, and scarcity generates value. When you speak rarely, your words carry weight. When you react sparingly, your emotions become unpredictable. And unpredictability, Machiavelli's favorite tool of control, forces others to tread carefully around you. They begin to monitor their behavior in your presence. This is not respect demanded, it is respect conditioned. Every social interaction is, at its core, an invisible contest for dominance. It is not determined by wealth, appearance, or status, but by who sets the emotional tone. The one who remains calm defines the frame. So if someone insults you and you stay utterly unfazed, you silently seize control of the entire dynamic. Everyone watching feels it. The insulter may still be speaking, but the audience has already shifted their allegiance. Because deep down, people are drawn to emotional authority. They admire restraint even when they don't fully understand it. Machiavelli would caution, however, that there is a fine line between quiet strength and passive weakness. If your silence stems from fear, it will command nothing but doubt. People can sense when silence masks insecurity. True Machiavellian silence is like a blade wrapped in velvet, soft to the touch, yet lethal beneath the surface. It signals that you are observing, thinking, waiting, and capable of retaliation, but only if it's worth your time. That is what unnerves people most, the realization that you have already moved on while they remain stuck in the moment. There is also a political dimension to this. In any environment, workplace, social circle, or family, people test you with subtle verbal attacks. Each insult acts as a probe, a small piece of data. The first time you react, they learn your vulnerabilities. The first time you remain silent, they discover something far more valuable. Your buttons don't work. This strategy produces profound freedom. When you no longer react to insults, you become emotionally untouchable. You stop dancing to the rhythms of others. You set your own tempo, and gradually the world begins to bend to it. Influence grows not by force, but by gravity. Your silence becomes an invisible pull. People start seeking your approval rather than attempting to provoke you. Even Machiavelli recognized that controlling perception is the foundation of lasting authority. He preferred to be feared for his composure than loved for his reactions. Because fear built on silence is purer. It doesn't rely on threats. It relies on mystery. The less others know about what provokes you, the more they project strength onto you. And when managed correctly, projection becomes power. Of course, there is a risk, being misunderstood. Some may mistake your silence for weakness. Others may read it as arrogance. Let them. Every second they spend guessing is another second you dominate the frame. Machiavelli would say it is better to be misjudged in silence than correctly judged in desperation. Reputation does not come from explanations. It comes from what you consistently embody. People remember presence far longer than words. In practice, this means making your calmness your defining feature. When your name is mentioned, the first image that comes to mind should be your composure. The way you looked through someone rather than reacted. The way you smiled when insulted as though hearing mere static. That impression lingers. It teaches others that you no longer play their emotional games. You run your own. And that, at its core, is true Machiavellian power reversal. When others try to drag you into chaos and you respond with stillness, they become trapped in the very noise they created. The ultimate goal is not merely to stop replying to insults, it is to stop needing to reach a level of detachment where someone's opinion feels as distant as a passing car horn. You hear it, notice it, but it does not disrupt your path. That is the quiet confidence of those who outlast everyone else. While others spend years defending themselves, you build a life so resilient that it becomes its own defense. And by the time they realize that your silence was the answer all along, it is too late. You have already won the war they mistook for a mere argument. There is a deeper reason Machiavelli would advise you to never reply to insults. It's not merely about appearing calm, it's about shaping perception over time. In every interaction, people are silently ranking each other. They're measuring who controls their emotions, who maintains a steady frame, who dictates the rhythm of the room. When you reply to an insult, you signal instability. You reveal that your emotions are public property. But when you remain unshaken, you project something far more formidable, emotional sovereignty. That is the essence of true power. Consider this: the person insulting you is not trying to prove themselves right. They are testing your weakness. They want to see if their words can move you. If they can, they own a part of you. From that moment, you are no longer a mystery. You are a predictable reaction. Machiavelli would say that real power begins the moment others can no longer predict your behavior. When they cannot predict you, they cannot manipulate you. Every insult ignored is another wall added to the fortress of unpredictability. There is also a spiritual dimension. When you stop replying, something within you shifts. You begin to see that insults only reach the part of you that still seeks approval. The ego craves validation. It wants to be seen as good, right, respectable. Machiavelli's philosophy frees you from that need entirely. To become truly powerful, you must weaponize indifference, not feigned indifference, but the real kind. The kind that looks an insult in the face and hears only noise. And paradoxically, this indifference becomes magnetic. People feel your presence more, not less, because most humans are slaves to emotional triggers. They cannot comprehend someone untouched by provocation. When they encounter that kind of composure, they are forced to recalibrate, lowering their tone, speaking carefully, seeking your validation instead of attempting to provoke you. You have inverted the hierarchy, and all it took was saying nothing. Silence is not absence. It is strategy perfected. Every moment you remain silent, you are observing. You are calculating the other person's psychology, noting their patterns, voice cracks, insecurities and tells. Many believe power comes from speaking, but Machiavelli knew it comes from knowing. Reply too soon, and you lose the information they reveal. Wait, and they expose themselves. In silence, people show everything. Picture a workplace filled with subtle politics. Someone tries to humiliate you publicly, a sarcastic remark, a disguised jab. All eyes turn to you, expecting a reaction. You could defend yourself and win the moment, or you could follow. Machiavelli's counsel: remain utterly unmoved. You give no reaction, no energy, no confirmation that their words land. Instantly, the dynamic shifts. They feel the embarrassment they intended for you, while the crowd senses who truly holds composure. Your silence becomes a form of retaliation, elegant, invisible, unforgettable. This restraint must be trained. Your emotions will resist, screaming to respond, to clarify, to prove yourself. But remember, reacting may win you the moment, while silence wins the war. Those who cannot handle it will destroy themselves, trying to break your calm. The beauty of Machiavellian silence is that it allows others to implode in public, while you remain untouchable in private. True power is not in what you display, it is in what you withhold. By replying, you give away energy, feed their relevance. By withholding, you drain it, letting their words echo into nothingness. Nothingness is unbearable for fragile egos. They overthink, lose sleep, invent their own downfall. Silence makes their mind your accomplice. This principle extends beyond individuals. It works on groups. Crowds thrive on reaction. They may not respect calm immediately, but over time, your silence becomes synonymous with authority. People remark they never react or nothing gets to them. In saying it, they confess your restraint has become power. Composure becomes your weapon. To reach this point, you must silence a part of yourself, the part that needs to be understood. The ego tricks you into thinking that explaining proves you are right. Machiavelli knew the truth. The more you try to prove yourself, the weaker you appear. The more you let others talk, the stronger your truth becomes, without defense. Reality requires no protection. Your presence suffices. Something else occurs when you stop replying, your thinking changes. You see how much of life was built on reactions, arguments, wasted hours, pointless disputes. When the noise no longer owns you, your mind achieves silence too. True focus begins. Your time, attention, and energy return to you. Machiavelli's wisdom was as much about energy conservation as manipulation. The most dangerous man is the one whose energy multiplies where it matters. Next time someone insults you, remember, they are not trying to harm you. They are testing your mastery. They seek to measure the depth of your composure. Every time you remain silent, you train yourself. You teach your mind that others' chaos no longer dictates your peace. Insults stop wounding. They become fuel. Each ignored attack makes you colder, sharper, more sovereign. Eventually, insults cease to register as threats. They become background noise to a man standing in a storm, aware but untouched. This is the Machiavellian ideal. Internally fortified, impervious to attack. Understanding that reaction is a luxury reserved for the worthy. In a world addicted to shouting, your silence will echo the loudest, and those echoes will haunt the very ones who sought to provoke you.